Christmas, everyone! I'm Candy, and today I will be making a Bruce Timm style Harley Quinn doll. I'm so sorry for the delay in this video. I think our house edition will be done in the next month. Then I will have my own office and workspace, and I can get back to bringing you all videos on the regular. So thanks everyone for sticking with me and being patient. Alright, getting started, I start cutting her collar out with Bristol board. I wanted to use craft foam at first, but it was a little too thick for this particular piece. After I glue the collar on, I clean up the seam with 2-part epoxy clay. Then, using even more clay, I make cute little balls and attach them using super glue. More clay for her wristbands. I'll be building those up more later. Then I get to the line placement. Right now I'm roughly sketching out where the blocks of color are going to go. Then I get right to painting. I can be a little sloppy at this point because I'll end up going back and forth between the red and black anyways to get the lines nice and crisp. So I'm making a point not to paint the joints as I'll be coloring them with pastel later. So sloppy, but I'll clean it up. Okay, now I start sketching in the diamonds. It took me a while to get the shape right, but once it's the way I want, I'll come back to it and clean it up once the joints are all colored in. Okay, for the joints, it's just layers and layers of pastels. Each layer is followed by a layer of Mr. Super Clear. This really is the best way to deal with joints. Using paint just causes all kinds of chipping. I think it took me about 6 layers to get the colors opaque enough. And then it's back to cleaning up the diamonds. I just keep going back and forth between the two colors until everything is nice and crisp. Seriously, it's so satisfying to see sloppy, sketchy work get cleaned up little by little in these tiny little details. Alright, the next step is to paint her collar and her wristbands. I want to point out at this point that I noticed that her neck color is in the wrong order. I don't realize this until I start working on her head, so after everything you see here, I had to go back and reverse the color. After last minute sharpening up, I get to her wristband details. I drew in the swirl with a black colored pencil, then I went in with many layers of white paint to clean it all up. Once everything is done, I go over the entire body with Duraclear matte varnish, and once that dries, I cover everything in a thin layer of Tamiya gloss to give it a light shine. Okay, while that dries, let's get started on the head. The first thing I'm gonna do is slice those lips off. Harley needs a big toothy smile, and I'm not gonna be able to manage that with these Draculaura lips, so they have to go. Using 2-part epoxy clay, I start making new lips. A toothpick will work really great for this, actually. I've never done anything like this before, honestly, so it takes a while to get it right, as you can probably see. Once the lips are mostly complete, I get to work on her headpiece. I start off by covering her scalp with a layer of clay, and then I'll let that dry, sand it, and then I'll start on her two pigtail thingies. I also put a sloppy layer of paint around her lips so I can get a better look at the shape. I think it's almost there. Alright, back to her headpiece. First, I sketch out where the color part will be, and then I begin to just, glob a couple of horns on her head. Once that dries, I add another layer of clay in the actual shape that I want. Okay, I thought I recorded when I applied the little balls at the end of her pigtails, but apparently not. For those, I just shaped them and smushed them to the tips with a little super glue and let all that dry. Now let's paint her face. This process took like a bajillion layers. The reason for this is I watered down the paint a lot. That helps to keep the streaks at bay, I want to keep it as smooth as I can. 20-something layers later, she's finally ready for her face up. I spray her face 3 times with Mr. Super Clear, and then I get started on penciling in the details. Since her head is mostly mask, I can be a little sloppier drawing things in than I usually am, as you will see in just a moment. Once it's all penciled in, I spray her again and start filling in the mask and hood with acrylic paint. After sketching in the eyes, I get started with the red. Like the body, I go back and forth between black and red to get that center line straight and crisp. I do the same thing with her lips, going back and forth with the black and white to get the shape that I want. Okay, let's get these eyes done. Alright, once the eyes are how I want, I start cleaning up all the edges. Then I pull out the pastels to give a little more depth to her nose. Once her face is all done, I apply the eyelashes. I glossed her eyes and lips before applying them, which is something I never do. I'm not sure why I did that. Maybe I was drunk that night, I can't remember. After everything is dry, I add a thin layer of gloss over her mask and hood to finish it off. Alright, let's work on her mallet. Using craft foam, I make the mallet shape, glue it together, and then use fire to help mold it into a more circular shape. Then I cut a few holes in it and stick a straw through for the handle. Then I glue the hell out of it all to keep it all in place. Then I take a few cut-out circles and apply them to the ends of the mallet. I'm not too concerned with it being a perfect circle because I'm covering most of the mallet in clay. I wanted it to look really old and well used. After getting the clay in the places that I want, I used a toothpick and X-Acto knife to add in some rough wood texture, a step I apparently never recorded. Once everything is dry, I paint the entire thing in brown acrylic. And once that's dry, I apply a very thin layer of black paint to fill in the gaps and add a little depth. The next step is to dry brush a lighter shade of brown to separate the shadows and the highlights even more. And the last step is to personalize it. I add a couple of pretty sloppy diamonds and then a few funny drawings in red acrylic. And after all that, she is absolutely done. So what do you think, guys? Classic Harley has always been my favorite, so I'm happy I finally got to make a doll of her. I've been having a lot of fun with these bodysuit wearing superheroines or villainesses, so if you guys have any suggestions as to who I should do next, just let me know in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.